Hey there, this is Dana Arcuri, author, speaker, survivor, and advocate. Today's topic is the powerful purge of 2020. Have you been feeling it this year? There's been a subtle shift. It began at the very start of 2020, and it started off very subtle, and then by March and April, it became faster. It was accelerating at a quicker speed. A lot of changes taking place for everyone worldwide in the year of 2020. Oh my goodness. What a year it's been, hasn't it? So much that we are really coming to a place of understanding that there's some things in life we just can't control, and there's other things in life that we can control. And sometimes we just have to be thankful for the blessings we have at this very moment. And so November is a great month for giving thanks and also for being aware of the things in your life that you may have outgrown, you may no longer need, or you just don't really feel it has a place in your life anymore. And that is what the powerful purge of 2020 is all about. So first, let's chat about the definition of purge. So according to dictionary.com, purge means to rid of whatever is impure or undesirable. It's cleansing and it's purifying. If we go to the website vocabulary.com, they describe purging as to get rid of something or someone, and it's often done suddenly. And so when we think of purge, we are thinking of things, especially things and situations that are negative, things that just don't feel comfortable. Now, some of you know what I'm talking about. You are in relationships that are very destructive, unhealthy, and toxic, and you have been really questioning if you need to let go of that broken relationship. It's a really big challenge for many of us to end destructive relationships, and it really does take great courage and strength to do so. Now, for me in the year of 2020, I've had just so many huge changes. Now, to other people, they might not seem significant to them because it's not their life. But for me, I could say in the year 2020, I have purged things, let go of things, and released people, places, and things that other people may be shocked at. They might be like, oh my gosh, are you crazy? Why'd you do that? But we have to understand that each person is unique. Our own individual circumstances are unlike other people's. And so what might be right for me, say letting go of a few very broken relationships or letting go of certain things that just don't work well anymore, or they just don't belong in my life anymore. You know, for me, that's how it is. That's my reality of 2020, that there's so many different things that keep cropping up month after month, in which I am being prompted to reevaluate and then determine if it needs to stay or if it needs to go. And to my surprise, I felt a really big nudge to let some very big things go. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's move on now to a few things in regard to this purge. So purging is like pruning, and we could think of this beautiful vine, and at one time, you know, it's blossoming, it's flourishing, it's doing very well. But then if we're not tending to it, say it's not getting sunlight, it's not getting the right food and oxygen and so forth, then there might be weeds that kind of show up in these vines, and before you know it, we can't see the flowers anymore, and we are just like looking at a jungle. It looks like just a bunch of weeds. And so what do we have to do? Well, we clip it. So we start clipping away, clip away at these various dead pieces that are part of the vine, and we get rid of it. Why? Because it's holding us back. So a big part of the purge of 2020, it's that whole thing that's like the vine. If we have things in our life that are dead relationships, a dead-end job, you live in a location where you're just not able to find work, or you're just not happy in that city. You might have certain routines in your life that it's cramping your style, it's taking up too much of your time and energy, it's sucking all of the goodness and the joy out of you, and something has to give. And so that's why we do reevaluate. That's why we do let go of specific things in our lives that just no longer serve us. And so let's chat a little bit more about this. So what it is that change and self-growth and letting go and purging our old ways and our old beliefs is all about transformation. If we continue staying the same and we kind of dig in our heels and we say, no, I don't want to change, and I don't want to move, and I don't want to quit my job, and I can't stand this relationship, and it hurts me and it's toxic, but I don't want to go no contact. Well, then where does that leave us? Stuck in a rut. And it's no good. It's no good, because what will happen is then it will produce a lot of dissatisfaction, unpleasant experiences, especially with toxic people. And it will keep us held back from beautiful opportunities that might be awaiting us. And so we don't want to be the person in our way. So oftentimes we need to get out of our own way. There are so many times that we're just so caught up in our routine. We're so caught up in obligations and responsibilities and things that even we might not be responsible for. It might not be our responsibility. It might be something that really should be our adult children's responsibility, or our spouse's responsibility, or really should be our boss's responsibility. There are times somehow people try to put a heavy burden on our back, and they might not mean it. They might not intend to do that. But there are times there are people who will come to us and they'll want their problem to then become our problem. And so I've learned, especially as a mother, I've had those hard rock moments where I've come to that place of understanding that someone else's problem, that's not my responsibility. So they are accountable for themselves. I am accountable for myself. You are accountable only for yourself. And that's why we have to really minimize all of the clutter, all of the noise, the distractions, the obligations, the people pleasing. It just is absolutely, stressful. It puts a heavy weight on our shoulders, a burden on our back, and it could prevent us from moving forward on the correct pathway where we belong, where we could actually blossom and flourish. So that's something we need to think about. Next is that in the year of 2020, I collectively believe that we are to lay down our plans, our will, our dreams, and our ideas and beliefs to do more reflecting, reevaluating. Sometimes we need to pause, put the brakes on. And I mean put the brakes on fast and just be quiet. Listen to that still, soft voice within you. And look for divine signs around you. Oftentimes, it's these very divine signs, whether it's a rainbow, whether it's a red cardinals, seeing a hawk, different things that might cross our paths in a regular day that could give us confirmation on what we need to do and whether to say yes or whether to say no. So it's really being mindful, it's really using discernment, and it's also trusting that good intuition within each one of us, because our intuition's always spot on. Next is that as a collective, we are called to release what no longer serves us, what we might have outgrown. So you may have outgrown your job, your occupation. You may have outgrown some friendships and relationships. You may have outgrown the home you live in. You may have outgrown even something as minor as your daily routine, that there could be things in your routine that are just stealing your time and your energy. It's zapping you of joy and positivity, and it's just draining you and it's stressing you out. So there are so many times, especially in 2020, we are being called to let go. And so I think a big part of it is building an awareness. And I think there is a great awakening happening in 2020. We're viewing things differently, whether it's politics, whether it's religion, whether it's our health, whether it's how we socialize, how we distance ourselves. What does it mean to live a life that's meaningful? And for each one of us, that could look very, very different. Let me move on with my notes. So I'll start with a few things that were like the big significant purges of 2020 for me. Now, keep in mind that what I believe is necessary for me may not be necessary for you. So I really believe this is something very individual, very specific, that each of us have our own way of living life, our own way of going to work and raising a family, and how do we deal with people, especially toxic people? How do we deal with things that don't go our way? And I think everyone has a different perspective. For me, the big thing about 2020, other than releasing a lot of things that no longer serve me, or just they've been outgrown in my life, is also this building awareness and understanding that, change is good. Change is not bad. And while sometimes we get really resistant in making changes, we get used to our patterns and our habits and our daily routines, but change is positive. So we can't move forward if we just keep doing the same thing. And if it's not working, you keep doing the same thing and it's not working, well, then that's a sign that you really do need to make a change. So here is a few things that have been some significant changes and purges in my life. And, I don't expect you to understand it. I'm just being open. I feel like, hey, my life's an open book. I share a lot with you people on YouTube because a lot of you relate so much to this. So maybe you'll relate, maybe you won't relate. It'll be interesting to see if you do have similarities to me. So in March 2020, I really felt like there was this significant shift. And I really believed that our world was in like this big shakeup. It almost seemed like the whole entire universe was just being shaken and tossed upside down. The pandemic really has grabbed our attention to really start thinking carefully about the people, places, and things in our lives, about what we're doing with our time, how we're managing our time. We're looking more closer now at our relationships. Isn't it amazing that during the social distancing, we're able to evaluate so much better the state of our relationships with other people? I think that's really interesting, but I do believe that with distance from people, we could have clarity on the state of that relationship. There's that saying, distance makes the heart grow fonder. In some cases, yes, absolutely. But in other cases, distance makes you understand that the relationship was dead to begin with, and you have no business staying in the relationship any longer with someone who's a narcissist or toxic or abusive. So, the great awakening for me and the big purge for me is definitely releasing those people who were not compatible anymore. We just don't have a lot of similarities. We have a lot of differences, and there could be a lot of psychological abuse involved, in which I will not stay in a relationship that's unhealthy and unstable. So in March 2020, I released my book, Soul Cry, right before the big pandemic and lockdown. And it's neat because, the word release, here we are again with the word release, the whole letting go. So I birthed this book. When you have a book and you write it and you put your blood, sweat, and tears in it, it feels like you're birthing a baby. To me, each of my books, I have 5 books I've written and published. So all 5 of my books are like my precious baby. And so when I release it into the world, my biggest prayer is that it would touch other lives in a positive way, that people would learn something from it, that they would gain insight and wisdom, and they would have, encouragement and inspiration and motivation. And most of all, that they would be able to understand that they're not alone and that there is hope for healing. And April 2020 is when I felt like things were even shifting at a faster speed. It just seemed like there was so much going on, like boom, boom, boom. We were just being hit so hard, people. I know that every country might be different. Every state might be different as far as different mandatory rules. But I know in my own area, it was really challenging this year. I have to say that I've been through worse than 2020. I don't believe that 2020 was like a bad thing for me personally. I believe it was a time for reevaluation, reflection, to refuel, to really use that opportunity of social distancing to better manage my time, to really look at, how am I spending my time? Do I really want to be on social media this much? No, I don't. And so there were huge changes. Some of them shocked me, I'll be honest. If someone would have shared with me these specific changes that I made in 2020, and say in 2019, someone would have said, here's 3 things that you are going to do in the year 2020, and this is what you are going to make a big decision on, and you're going to let go of these things. I'll be honest, I would have been shocked. I would have said, no way, I wouldn't let go of that. I won't stop doing that. I won't quit that. But you know what? When you have a year like 2020, expect the unexpected. Anything can happen. So for me in 2020, in the month of April, I reached the end of my rope with Facebook. And so after being on Facebook for over, it might be 11 or 12 years, I reached this place where I really believed it was no longer a good fit for me. Without getting into details, because there is another video on this topic, so I'll just briefly share a few things about Facebook. So I had come to the conclusion that my purpose in life is not dependent on social media, on how many likes that I receive, how many followers I have on Facebook, and whether people accept me or don't accept me. I reached a place where it was just like, what? My life has so much more purpose than this. This whole thing with social media, it sucks up so much of my time. And there were so many days that became weeks, that became months, that turned into years, where I had a lot of frustrations with Facebook and the way they don't handle things the way I believe they should. I think that there's a lot of policies that they're newer. So the way Facebook was at the very beginning of time, when it first was originally started and created, that's not who Facebook is today. So Facebook has changed too. And we have to understand that to each his own, to each his own. But in my own personal opinion, I feel like I need to be able to focus on self-growth and professional growth and personal growth. And I really felt like there was a lot of silencing and just junior high behaviors on Facebook. And so I decided to deactivate my account, and I've never come back. I said goodbye, and that was the end of that. For some people, they would be shocked. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. Other people are like, oh, I left Facebook too, and I hate that. I hate that social media. There are some people who tell me their stories, oh, I was in Facebook jail for this and for that reason, or, oh, they wouldn't let me upload this video, or, oh, they, made a big deal about something I wrote or said. So there's a lot of censorship going on there, people. A lot of crap going on. And whether we like it or not, It is what it is. So we can't control what Facebook does, but we most certainly can control how we respond. And so my response was to say, adios, Facebook. And I pulled the plug and I haven't looked back. I don't regret it for 1 second. It's given me so much more valuable time to do things that are more meaningful in my life. Next is that, other than discarding Facebook, I left LinkedIn, I've left Pinterest. When I started taking a good look at social media as a whole, I realized that it is a time sucker. We think, oh, I'll just hop on for 5 minutes. No, those 5 minutes turn into 5 hours. And then before you know it, this person's messaging you, that person's messaging you. And if you spend all of your time answering every single like and comment and message, you won't have any time to do anything that you need to get done in your life. I mean, my goodness, if you work, how are you going to ever manage any of this? And so for me, I knew that radical change was a big part of 2020 for me. And so I embraced it the best I could. And I believe that I did what was best for me. I'm not saying for you to leave social media, but I would say the one thing to do for 2020 is take a good look at yourself. How much time are you spending on social media? Are you so caught up in, the craziness of chaos that goes on? We all know there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of criticisms and negative energy that does happen on social media. We have to be really mindful of not getting caught up in it. The noise, the distraction, the judgments, the condemnation. And so we have to really, really pull ourselves back and think about, is this really important? No, it really isn't. Okay, so then we move on. And for me in September 2020, I did something I never, ever would have thought that I would do. And it's sometimes there's such a shift in the energy and there's so many changes, like one after the other, that are after the other. So you could have a lot of different transitions in life and a lot of different things that happen that come into play. And that could bring us to a place where we have a new perspective. Our attitude can change about certain things. So how I felt about, say, social media 10 years ago might not be how I feel about it today. And how I felt about being an author 8 years ago when I started out writing, that might not be how I feel about writing and books. That might not be how I feel today. And the why? Because we change, and change is good. Change means that we're growing, and transformation is so vital in our life. There's so much beauty and goodness ahead of us. And so when one door closes, another door opens. And that is the beauty of making changes in our life. So for me, in the fall of 2020, I did something huge. And I left my website. So I had a website since, I'm thinking it was around 2012, 2013. Prior to that, I had another blog, and that was maybe for like 8 years. And I reached a place where what happens is there's this annual fee you have to pay because you are on a website and it's not free. Most websites aren't free. So if you want a good looking professional website, you have to pay. And if you want your domain name, well, then there's another fee attached. So for me, I ended up deciding to do a little math and to see in the past 12 years how much money I spent on my website and my domain name. For some people, they don't even think about it, or they don't even care. They don't care. But for me, I really felt that it was necessary after all this time has passed to reflect, to reevaluate, and to do a little mathematical equation to understand, what did I really spend? Oh my. Let's just say I was speechless when I realized how much I have spent on my website and my domain name since like 2012, 2013. And without giving the exact number, all I'm going to say is I had to do a reality check, because then it was very clear, this is how much money I've spent. I had to really consider, do I have enough followers on my website? Am I getting, the analytics? The analytics is showing you how many likes you have, how many comments you have, how many people are following you. Every day, if you're getting hits on your website, you're going to see this show up. So then you're getting a clearer picture of, oh, there's a lot of people visiting my website, or, oh, there's a decline in people visiting my website. So the thing with websites is this. We love blogging, we love writing, we love reading other people's blogs. I know I love reading people's blogs, especially things that are to do with like divine signs and holistic health and healing, and things that are really supernatural and inspirational and motivational. So I love reading and I'm a fan of it. Oh, hey, I'm an author. Come on now, I love reading and I love writing. But once I did this important little timeout to reevaluate my website, I came to a new understanding. And the understanding for me is this: just because I'm an author doesn't mean I need a website. Just because other people write and they blog doesn't mean I have to be a follower or a people pleaser or I have to join the crowd. We are not to conform with the world. Just because other people are doing it doesn't mean we have to do it. So I started thinking about, where do I best put my time? And I really believed it was with Twitter and it was with YouTube. These are my top two social media platforms. This is where I believe that I am having remarkable growth and I'm making a lot of positive connections, and I'm very thankful for that. And I want to thank you for subscribing and liking and commenting and being a part of my journey. I've been here for 9.5 years, people. So I've been on YouTube quite a while, and I've seen a lot of changes take place on YouTube. But as far as 2020, I did say goodbye to my website. And I'll be honest, I was sad. But when you have that like gut instinct in you and you listen to that still soft voice and it's nudging you, there are times God is knocking on our door. He is knocking on our door and he is nudging us to do something. And sometimes we're resistant. We're just like, Lord, what are you asking me to do? Like, this is my life. I'm a writer. I'm an author. This is my website. Now, why would you ever ask me to just like up and leave it? We have to understand that there are times we can't always understand the will of the Lord. There are times we don't understand life, or we don't understand like things that happen, the craziness of 2020. But we are called sometimes to do things radical, to do things that are going to take us on a totally different pathway. Because had we stayed on the same road and not made a change, if we resisted, say we would resist the will of God and whatever he has planned for us, and we say, no, I don't want to go there, and no, I don't want to do that. Oh, no, I'm not going to. Well, we could resist it. It's called free will. We all have the will to do as we choose. And sometimes we make mistakes, and sometimes we make good choices. And it's all good, because the truth is, even if you make a bad mistake, you learn from it. There's a beauty in bad mistakes. The beauty of falling to pieces and making a mistake or doing something that later you regret, the beauty is that there's a life lesson that is so valuable, and it leads us into professional growth, spiritual growth, personal growth, transformation. There's a lot of goodness that comes from it. And so for me, I knew that I was being nudged, and I knew after giving it quite some time to sit on it and really pray about it, think about it, and really consider all of my options, I knew for this season, it was time for me to step back, to step away from blogging, to step away from Facebook, to step away from the distractions, the noises, the chaos, and some things that I have outgrown in this particular season of my life. And so I could respect that everyone's season is different, and what might be best for you might not be best for me, and what might work well for me might not work well for you. But there's the whole thing on being mindful of really being open to doing wherever God leads us to. It doesn't mean it feels comfortable. It doesn't mean it doesn't scare us or terrify us or frustrate us or cause us to wonder, oh, what's ahead of me? What's ahead of me? A lot of times, the biggest step of faith we could ever take in our lives is to take a step forward, even if it's dark and we don't see what's ahead of us. That is the biggest step of faith we can ever possibly take, because faith is doing something when we don't see the end result. We don't know the outcome. Say you were asked and prompted by God to move to another country. And say you thought, this is crazy, I'm not going to do this, no way, this is dangerous, especially in 2020. But what if this is God's will for you? What if there is a beautiful box? Now picture this. Picture God's gift to you wrapped in a beautiful red package with a beautiful silver bow. And it's just a splendid gift. And it's just waiting there. It's just sitting on this table. And it's waiting for you to open it. But if you dig in your heels and you say, no, I'm not going to change location, I'm not going to relocate, I'm not going to move, and you find every excuse under the sun to not do it, even though you feel the nudge, even though you continually have confirmation that you need to make some changes and you need to make a move, and this is where the Lord's leading you. But if you say no, you're missing the blessing. You'll never get to open that package, that beautiful red package with the silver bow. It's waiting for you. And this is what I'm talking about. The purge of 2020 is that there's a gift in it. There's a blessing in disguise within 2020. So we may have experienced sickness, illness. There may have been deaths in our families, in our lives, people who were near and dear to us who we lost. There may have been your job was uprooted. Maybe you lost your job, or maybe you're stuck working at home and it is really challenging because you have kids and you are just trying to juggle it all. And I'm telling you, as a parent, we know it's not easy to juggle it all because we're only human. We're only human. And so for me, I was nudged to leave Facebook. I was nudged to leave other social media. I was nudged to let go of my website. Now, my website, that was really significant. You know, again, it was kind of like my baby to me. There was a lot of blogs. You know, when you've been blogging for many years, and there are some blogs that had just such significant feedback, especially the one on the powerful signs of red cardinals. It was my number one blog. I did end up saving it. It was like this bittersweet, you know, the day I ended up deleting my website and chose to not renew this annual fee. It was this bittersweet moment where I felt sad, but I knew I was doing the right thing. And sometimes making changes, it is uncomfortable. It prompts us and kind of stretches us and asks us, leave the comfort zone. Sometimes we become so complacent. We become so comfortable in our routine, the day after day after day after day, year after year after year. And we're so comfortable that we're not willing to step out. We're not willing to step out in faith. Well, faith is stepping out in the dark and taking a step forward, even if you don't know what's ahead of you. So I don't know what's ahead of me, people. I've been doing a lot of soul searching, a lot of praying, a lot of being quiet, a lot of unplugging from social media, so I could really tap into what is my soul mission? What is my next step? What is the next adventure? And I really feel like there's a breakthrough. I feel like I'm getting close. I feel like I'm getting really close. I've been getting some new nudges and new confirmations, but I'm really going to stay kind of low key right now. I really believe for me, I need to kind of wait for this moment. You know, timing is everything. Timing is essential, especially when we're making some very new changes in our lives, especially when it's to do with a business. So for right now, at this moment, I am just in a waiting season, getting prepared for something new. And I really feel there is a breakthrough right around the bend. And I really believe that 2021 is going to have some really incredible new doors opening up for all of us. The next thing I could say is that I realize that life is so short. So in 2020, I have really reevaluated my life, where I'm headed, where I'm going, what my gifts are, what my talents are, what my strengths are, where I could best be used as a vessel for Christ. And I really believe that there's something really brilliant and so much better ahead of me. And it's going to be waiting for me. And I know that in the right time, for the right meaning, the right purpose, everything will come to fruition. And so I'm pretty much just in anticipation with positive expectation that yes, there is going to be something great coming around the bend for me. And I look forward to it. We have to understand that, in 2021, there is going to continue to be some new, incredible things happening around the world. And I think that the more we're aware of this powerful purge and the more willing we are to let go and release the things that are no longer serving us, that might be holding us back, that might not be adding fruit to our lives, it might not be the place we need to be. There might be some maybe significant changes you need to make, maybe in relationships, maybe with finances, maybe with your children, maybe with your city and where you live, or maybe just in how you do things or your beliefs. How many times do we have beliefs that end up becoming stagnant? Maybe the way you felt about something 20 years ago is not how you feel about it now. So through each season in life, we grow, we stretch, and we change. And it is like leaving a dark cocoon and finally getting our wings and expanding ourselves. And we end up soaring. And soaring is exactly what we're called to do. I'm going to end with this beautiful quote, and I will let you know it is a little bit lengthy, but it's such a beautiful quote, and I thought this really does sum up the powerful purge of 2020. So here we go. It is by Marianne Williamson, and she says, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, to be gorgeous and talented and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing safe does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightening about shrinking, let me read that again. There's nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. Amen. We are all meant to shine as children. We are born to manifest the glory of God who is within us. It is not just some of us, it is everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And so I love that quote, and I think it really describes the powerful shift. We are not supposed to play it safe and to make ourselves smaller and to dull our sparkle. We are supposed to allow ourselves to be like that beautiful flower. Trim the hedges, trim the vine, but let the flowers bloom. Because when we bloom, we shine and we help other people along our journey. And that's what it's all about. It's about helping others. So today, share with me, have you had significant changes in the year 2020? Was there anything you let go of? Did you have a powerful purge? And what did you let go of? What are you releasing? And what are you doing that's new? I'd love to hear more from you. Please share. God bless.